Well, I found another leak. The last one I discovered was this leaking helm station when I was going to look at some electrical stuff. And if you recall, I stuck my head in the little opening down here after I got back from 5 or 6 days out boating around, and oil was dripping on the side of my noggin. This one I discovered down in the engine room, which is not the kind of place you want to find a leak. And it was, when I put my hand on the little toolbox that's sitting down there, it came up covered in stuff. So I got a little work to do to figure out what's going on with that. And I'm going to share with you a trip that I took up here to try to go back to revisit the scene of a terror-filled night when I heard Sasquatch calling out in the middle of the night. So let's talk about that. Gray and I came up this road that I'm on a couple years ago or several years ago, and we wound up driving up this road to a campground. The road is actually closed behind me. It's got some boulders in the road and the Forest Service has closed it, but we were coming in the dark of night looking for a campground that we'd never been to, and it was getting really late, and we'd been listening to horror podcasts all day. So I'm going to show you at a couple points this road that we're on, and I just want you to imagine driving this in the dead of night with your headlights shining, and the trees are all overgrown, and the road kept getting smaller and smaller. We're on the small end of it here, so I'll show you just a couple little spots of it as we go. I just wanted to share this with you and show you what we went through to get to that spot. By the time we got there, we were both pretty freaked out because it looked like the kind of place where we thought we'd come around a corner and there'd be like some horror movie going on, some axe murder or something. But anyway, that did not pan out. But that's where I heard Sasquatch. So that's what I think the reason they have the road closed is because they're turning it into a Sasquatch wildlife management area, probably. But anyway, I'll just show you some of it. Yeah, I get it. That road does not look scary, right? But drive it at the night. Drive it when your headlights are shining down under those trees and you don't know where you're going, and it just keeps getting longer and longer, and time slows down. Whew. Yeah, it was intense that night. And I should explain the hearing Sasquatch thing. So we were sleeping in the rooftop tent on the truck, and in the middle of the night I woke up and I heard this call, and we joke about it now. I swear it was being made by something with lips, not a beak. But of course, having heard my description, Gray did a little digging on the internet and found it was an owl. So it wasn't really Sasquatch, but I thought it was at the time. So that was part of the freak out of that whole thing. Owning a boat in a marina is like having a waterfront condo. And I came in the other day, and it was one of those evenings where the salmon are starting to run. So a couple of salmon fishing boats had pulled inside. They come in to the inside of the marina here, right inside the breakwater, and anchor for the night. There was a big old rich dude's yacht out there chilling out in the bay. The sailboats were out in force. I could not help it. I just grabbed the camera and just filmed a bunch of it. So let's take a moment and enjoy the area here, and I'll show you what it looks like off my front porch. remember when I had that little electrical failure up there on Lopez Island, I wound up having to haul the anchor up by hand, and I didn't have any way to wash it off really, and I got all muddy. And I said at the time, when I was explaining all that to you, that I had that problem with the deck washdown hose up there. The hose that goes from the pump to the front of the boat looks like it runs between some of the fiberglass of the boat underneath the deck. And I believe what happened is maybe that is a freshwater washdown, and it got left with water in it over the winter and froze up and split that hose up underneath the deck somewhere. So I put a new pump in and turned it on, and water was just gushing out of a spot that I couldn't get to. I have since run a new piece of hose, and I have that deck washdown working now. So that's cool. We can wash the anchor chain off next time and haul that up. I am about ready to head down into the engine room. I've got a little bit of coffee left to drink before I can get that work started, but I'm gonna get the coffee inside of me and then go down in the engine room. I'll take you with me while I go down there, and we'll see if we can figure out where that new leak is coming from. And I also, when I got back from that last trip out, I discovered that the pans under the engine, so underneath the engines, there's these big steel pans, basically the size of the engine, and you put these oil absorbent pads down in them, and then if any oil drips or anything like that, it soaks up in those pads. Well, when I got back from that last outing, I was down in there kind of checking everything out, make sure everything is okay, and on the port side engine, those pads seemed a little more oily than they should be. And I was like, something seems to be dripping a little oil, or maybe it was from the last oil change, not really sure. But I pulled those out, cleaned them all up, put a fresh set down, turned to the starboard engine, and it was all, looks like it had diesel in the pads. So there might be a diesel leak too. So I think if we summarize what's leaking on the boat right now, the steering system is leaking. The port side engine might be leaking a little oil. The starboard side engine might be leaking a little diesel. And then there was something else that I discovered at the front of the engine compartment up there by where the generator is that looks like it's maybe coming from the area of the diesel furnace. And that looks like it's oil at this point. I cleaned it all up. I put my hand down on the toolbox the other day and came up wet. And so I dried that off. I put a new oil absorbent pad down underneath there to see if we can spot the drip zone. So I'm going to dive down in there, and we're going on a leak discovery mission, because the one thing I can't stand is stuff that leaks. And where I've got this thing scheduled to go into the shop here pretty quick, if I do have a diesel leak, I'll need probably a diesel mechanic to take care of that. So let's go. Well, I'm going to finish my coffee, you finish yours, and then we'll go see what we can find out down below. Well, we're getting up close and personal in this engine room now. It's a little small down in here, but first things first, I'm going to show you this diesel furnace. This is it, and here's our leak. So it looks to me like it's this is wet here, but this is an electrical set of electrical wires, so it's dripping down from somewhere above that, and I think it's right here, right in here somewhere. It's one of these fuel lines, I believe. So that may not be the end of the world. Yeah, that one actually feels, I felt like that moved around a little bit when I first touched it. So I'll it's pretty much soaked this wire loom around here. So that's not that great. But anyway, I'll tighten all these up. See, that probably isn't too major of an issue. Just a loose hose clamp there. Okay, so down here are those pans I was talking about underneath the engines, and you can see right back there, that's where that, I believe, is dripping a little, and there's some further back in there. So of course it would be over here on the difficult to get to part of the engine, but I'm guessing again it's from this area where fuel's coming in. I believe that's the fuel line, the main fuel line we're seeing right here, going into the fuel pump. That maybe needs a clamp tightened up or something. Maybe that thing's vibrating a little bit and causing it to work itself loose, but I would say that's most likely our culprit. Port side over here. Not sure anything has dripped down there since I put the fresh clean pads in, but I'll look at that one. So this engine is the same as this one, and this is the area where I'm thinking either it's where something's coming out of there, or that's pretty oily in the same area. So maybe we're getting a little leak around the starter on both of them. So yeah. All right, well, I can't say that my trip down into the engine room was 100% conclusive, but so far at this point, I kind of feel like the next order of business is to go down there with a screwdriver, give every hose clamp kind of a little twist and make sure everything's nice and tight, and continue to monitor the situation. I don't think we have a spurting artery or anything down there. I think we have some seeping drips. So I might have been freaking out a little more than I needed to when I first saw the extent of everything. I think it was just because over time it had built up. So the leak on the steering system is still my biggest concern, because that one was kind of losing a fair amount of oil for a system that isn't pressurized or anything like that, but is just moving oil around as you use it. So I still maintain the proper thing to do is to try to avoid using that until we get it fixed. And before you know it, it will be time to take this thing over and have it hauled out and have that work done. So a few other things I'm going to do to get prepped for that, but I'll save those for next time around. And for this time around, I'm going to go ahead and put this one in the can and send it up to YouTube. Do you believe in Sasquatch? Because for a little bit there, that one night, I did. But anyway, I'll talk to you next time around.